2, and you get an average power consumption on the battery of 1 kilowatt. So that means you're putting out 1 kilowatt out of the battery before all the losses, before it gets to the wheel. So you're riding with an average of 1 or even less horsepower. So whether that makes sense or not in the real world is a big question mark in my mind.
Okay.
But I guess we'll see.
So you're talking about the actual speed you could ride then at that point, like, because if you're going to got 1 horsepower, that's not much.
Yeah.
Most 450s are at least in that 40 to 50 range these days. The more powerful ones are in the 60s. So yeah, that's pretty low.
Yeah.
One
So
horsepower.
Again, yeah. So again, it all depends a lot on how you're riding it and how much power you're actually asking the bike to put down to the ground. We'll see. The range, in my opinion, the range will remain the biggest barrier and issue with these kind of bikes. And that's precisely, again, why I repeat, it's our main focus, and we have some solutions to work on that.
Yeah, nice. So you sort of we just touched on it there about like the output of the the horsepower aspect, and that was one thing that sort of caught everyone's attention when these initial press releases, particularly for the Stark, when they have the 2 options into that 80 horsepower range. And obviously it's all electronics adjustment, so you can do these things really, really quickly. But what are you guys aiming as like the one? I'm assuming you're going to have like a top range for highest output that you would put down as safe. But what are you trying to work on as the horsepower range for this bike that you would put down as the average, and what's the top one that you're looking at for your numbers so far?
Yeah, our idea is to not have 2 power versions, is to just have one with all the power available.
Okay.
Because we're talking about peak power. You're not going to be able to use that power in a constant way because, well, you're going to die.
Well, yeah.
So it's just there if you need it for those short little bursts.
Yep.
And then, of course, you have the ability to connect with your phone and just limit the power to whatever you feel comfortable with. You can limit it to 10 horsepower if you want, just by pressing a button or sliding a slider. It's that easy. So it doesn't really make sense for us to have 2 versions. We're just going to have the one full power version.
Yep.
Because mechanically nothing changes. So we're not going to have 2 motors. We're not going to have 2 different inverters because it just doesn't make sense. So, and for me, electronically limiting the power artificially, and then kind of, charging money to get that unblocked without having any physical changes to the thing, it doesn't gel with my personal vision of what this should be. So
you're a trustworthy businessman in that sense. You're trying to just give the people what they have the access to already.
No, it's just I get the whole digital product aspect of it. And I do think that if you have additional features that you have spent time developing and money developing, that they should be payable, But this trend that we see with BMW and even with Zero motorcycles, where you have like heated seats that you have to pay a subscription to, no, that for me is a stupid move, and I don't want to sign my name.
I didn't know that they had a subscription for the seats aspect, like to have them as a heater. I haven't heard that one yet.
I don't know. I don't know if they implemented it, but they are trying to go in that direction, and Zero is really going hard in that direction.
I know that Tesla has lots of subscription aspects to them. I know they do for lots of things, but that seems ridiculous to me. Like, you bought the car, it has these functionalities. Like you're sort of saying, it should just have those functionalities. You shouldn't have to unlock it and subscribe to everything. I'm kind of a little bit over the subscription aspect of everything. You've got to subscribe to 5 different Netflix's type versions nowadays to watch TV, when you used to just turn it on and it was there.
Yeah, and you're not the only one. I think that a lot of people are being fed up with this kind of subscription jamming down our throats, and I think it's going to it's going to start to manifest in the actual sales numbers of the companies that are trying to push this kind of things. But I think there is a big differentiator. So, for example, Tesla, okay, yeah, you have the things you can buy, but it's, let's say, the Autopilot you can buy.
Yep.
And yeah, the hardware is there, but the software, there had to be, let's say, 2,000 engineers that had to make that software, you know? So
True. Yep.
it makes sense for it to be payable, and I can understand that. But if you put some feature like windshield wipers, you know, and then you charge a service to use them, where there was no development effort to make that software available, it's just a restriction just for the sake of it. That's where I draw the line. That's
Yeah,
my
fair enough.
opinion.
Yeah, yeah. So you're just basically going to have the bike has an output of, is it 80 or what are we talking here for the horsepower? And then that's just, you just
Yeah,
electronically on your phone go, right, I don't want the 80 today, I
yeah,
want the 60.
yeah. And then we're probably going to have a subscription service, but that is going to be for updates. And then in the future, maybe if we develop some new programs that may augment the ride in some way, uh, we could go in that direction. But again, it's you can use the bike on its own, and you have everything available. Um, if you want, you can subscribe to the updates, where basically we have a team of people that are constantly making the bike better, and then they can update your bike over the air and make it better, and that's it. The subscription you're paying, it's not an arbitrary restriction put on there, but it's, you're basically paying for the work of these people that are making your bike better after you purchased it.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so in that sense too, is that like you're you're sort of going with like a new model is just is just an electronic update, you know, via a download sort of thing at that
Yep.
point?
Yeah, that's another huge advantage that gets opened up with electric bikes. So when we down the line make some optimization of the inverter, maybe increasing your range, you know, we can do it over the air. If you have some bugs or some electrical issues, a lot of it can be diagnosed over the air. So again, a lot of things get kind of simplified, and basically the bike, when you buy your bike, it doesn't stop there. It can still get better through the years that you are owning it, and I think that is an exciting proposition.
Well, that'd be nice rather than just having to, you know, try and find a new pipe or something to put on the bike, like to make it better. Like that would be pretty cool just to go, you know, on the phone. Oh, look, version 2 is now available. Sick, let's get that, you know, and it changes this, that, and I get another half an hour of ride time. Oh, awesome. Yep, downloads, you know.
Yeah,
That'd be pretty sweet.
yeah. And we're also pushing on putting in the hardware in it. So again, it's kind of similar to the Tesla strategy, where you're putting in hardware for some features that you don't have, that you didn't develop yet. So basically, we put in the tools, and then as time progresses, when we develop the actual software to use those tools, then let's say a year after you bought the bike, you can have a new feature available that wasn't available before.
That's pretty awesome as well. So you're trying to future proof it and make it so this thing will be, you don't have to buy 5 of them in 5 years to keep up with the current model, essentially, aren't you?
Yeah, that's one thing. The resale value, I think it will be helped in that aspect. So yeah, it's basically improving the ownership experience and not just trying to milk the customer for more and more money.
Trying to buy a new, go nowadays, go and buy a new bike and it's upgrades of grips and graphics and change the plastic shape.
Yeah, it's you know, we can go down that path. I think a lot of bikes, that there isn't really that much progress anymore. I think it's really minimal. I think we're scraping the bottom of the barrel with gas bikes. Uh, I recently, no, not recently, but some time ago, I had a chance to ride a CR 125 from 2004.
Okay. Yeah.
With modern suspension.
Yeah.
And I was blown away. That thing was riding awesome. I was faster on the lap than I was with my new stock 450. So,
disappointing at that point,
again,
isn't it? That like something that old is actually still that good, but it's just a case that the technology, you've developed a few more parts and a few better ideas on suspension and stuff for the valving, and it's just as good still.
Yeah, I think the suspension is the big thing that has really improved a lot through the years.
Definitely. Yeah.
Aside from that, on the motor side, I don't think that we really made that much progress, honestly.
No, definitely not. But obviously, the electric bikes are a lot faster from what I've ridden so far. So it's a massive change in that side of things.
And that's just the starting point, with electrics, the technology is moving so fast forward, and also through all the money that is being thrown into cell development, the batteries are progressing all the time. So it's what you tried was the starting point, and it's going to become a lot better in the future years.
Yeah, well, if that's where it's starting, I don't really think it needs to get too much faster because I was happy where it was. So I was blown away at that point. So it's going to get better.
No, it gets better on cost and range, on charging speed, on temperatures, and so on.
Yeah, no, it's exciting proposition for where this could get to. So look, I've got a little note in this stuff from some of the stuff we spoke about last time that nobody's got to hear. And I thought it's just come up where that is up to. You mentioned last time when we spoke that you guys are actually going to have a clutch with the Flux. I'm hoping that's still the works, and I haven't stuffed that up somewhere. But talk about how that's going to actually work on an electric bike, because we had this conversation when I was with the Stark guys, because they don't have one on theirs at this point. And I was talking to them about more from the aspect of the off-road. Trying to pop over a log or pop up onto a rock shelf when he's from a stationary point of view, because it didn't have that same sort of feel to load it up with the plates of a clutch to then let it release quickly and pop up as such. And I didn't have that same sort of feel, but I was saying to them, how would you even do it? And they didn't really think it was worthwhile at that point. Where are you guys at with this side of things?
So to give you perspective, my starting point in getting the requirements together for the bike was just talking to as much people as was physically possible. And I was basically spamming everybody in the forums on Facebook and groups and wherever I could find them.
hey, give me an answer on this.
Basically. Because I really want to be connected to what the people actually want. So the clutch is something that came up a lot.
Yep.
So we kind of envisioned a virtual clutch. So a physical clutch is really problematic because it takes a lot of space, it heats up, it costs a lot, and let's not go even into the recluse / Henson side of things.
Yep.
It's a mess, and in an electric bike, it's a huge mess. So that was thrown out immediately. But then we said, what if we could mimic the function of the mechanical clutch virtually? So basically, we have a lever that is giving up the position of the lever digitally. And then we have an algorithm in the control unit where it's basically making it function like a clutch lever. So if you're like full throttle and you pull on the lever, it stops going forward. And then if you release the lever, it's gonna jump with all the power that it has straight away.
But this isn't like just an on-off switch at that point, is it? You've got like some sort of feel to the algorithm in terms of like a progressive pressure sensor or something, I gather, as it works along.
Yeah, it's a linear sensor, so you have the position known through all the stroke of the lever,
Mm-hmm.
and then it just becomes a question of how you want to set it up. So you basically can decide, okay, on 20% of that lever, I want to have all the clutch engagement. You can put in the curve of the clutch engagement. You can basically just kind of draw the line that you want your clutch to operate at.
Oh, wow.
And we also have it's really, I mean, digitally you can do literally anything.
Yeah, that's
Now how
crazy.
that's going to work, and and how that's going to work, we're going to see. But that might be a solution to this conundrum that you pointed out. And we also have a patent already regarding the virtual clutch and the regenerative brake.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically an algorithm for its function, the patent for the function. And a second thing we can do with that lever, if it's not used as a clutch, we can use it as a regenerative braking lever. So you're basically using the lever as a hand brake, and it's putting out a digital signal to the motor, and the motor is braking your rear wheel instead of your mechanical brake, and that is recharging your battery.
Oh, so as in you'd still have like the right foot brake pedal, but you're having a left hand brake. Is that what you're saying? Like, as in, it's not braking
Yeah,
the wheel;
yeah,
it's
yeah,
braking the motor.
yeah. You have an active regenerative brake. So again, to use the overused Tesla example, when you lift your foot off the throttle,
Yep.
the car brakes a lot,
Yep.
and that is basically the motors braking and recharging your battery while they brake.
Okay.
With the bike, obviously, you can't put a lot of engine braking on there because it's going to be nasty to ride.
Yep.
But if you yeah, but if you have a lever that mimics a brake in your physical field, it mimics a brake, and then it just puts out again a digital signal with which you brake with your motor. It can basically, in theory, replace your rear mechanical brake, and you're basically recharging the battery. So on the track, you're not going to be using it most likely, but let's say
But a trail
in a
rider would, yeah.
supermoto or in a trail ride, you might say, I'm just going to brake with that one and kind of get a little bit more range out of the bike.
So will it make much difference in that recharge point of view? Like I'm presuming like for the 10 seconds on a downhill or something that you pull it on, maybe 30 seconds on a long one. How much are we getting out of that? Like, is it really worthwhile at that point?
Yeah, again, it really, really depends on how much you're going to be using it.
Mm-hmm. True.
Uh, if you brake a lot with your mechanical brakes and you replace all that braking with a regenerative brake, in theory, yeah, it's gonna make a difference. But if you don't really use the brakes a lot, I guess it's not going to be that much of a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to need to do hard braking, you're going to need the front brake anyway. So
Yes.
it's I see the most use of it in an easy trail ride scenario. So where you don't need hard braking, where you can just opt to use the regenerative brake instead of mechanical brakes.
Yep.
And you're also saving on brake pads, I guess. So it's a win-win situation there.
It's helpful. Yeah. Extending that
Yeah.
less maintenance aspect of the of the bike.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Maybe, but again, we're gonna see how it works.
yeah.
It could someday replace your rear mechanical brake, so you get rid of a whole system. Basically, you get rid of a lot of things that can go wrong and need replacement and unsprung weight on the rear wheel. But we're gonna see if it's feasible.
Project for the next couple of models to see if that disappears or not. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough. All right. So look, whereabouts are you guys up to in this process? Like you're saying the Primo is obviously this pre-production bike. Is there one sitting on the floor somewhere, or is there 5 that you're working on that, to sort of have a couple to go on, one to go and test and the other one to, do something else testing on? Where are you up to? Have you ridden one yet? Have you seen one yet? Where are we at on this, seeing a Primo in the flesh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we are on the last steps of rolling it.
Mm-hmm.
So we released a email saying that we start testing in September, and yeah, it's September
It's
now.
September 8th.
So
Yep. So where are we up to?
yeah, so we're there. The bike is built. It's basically electrical stuff that is still being sorted out, like debugging, inverter pairing, charging configuration, and stuff like that.
Okay.
Uh, it's for the first steps is going to be one, where we first confirm that everything is working as it should, and then we're going to be building another one once we confirm that all the solutions are all right.
Okay. So it's physically sitting in a garage or a shed somewhere, but it hasn't run yet. Then I gather, if you're still waiting on a couple of pairing aspects or electronic aspects, it hasn't actually run yet.
Yeah. I mean, the motor has been spun, but the whole bike complete
Yep.
on itself hasn't been running yet. Yeah.
That must be just killing you sitting there watching that final couple of stages before you can actually get on it and actually see this hard work that you've put in come to life.
Yeah.
Like, that must be killing you at this point in time.
Yeah. It's yeah, I'm grinding my teeth.
So like, are we talking like, a couple of days away, a couple more weeks, like till it actually, you roll out the roller door and down the driveway and go, hey, look at this, it actually took off and stopped and I could ride it back to the starting point? Like, how close are we?
Yeah, I think for that little rolling out of the doors, it's week one. Um, then to do really track testing is a couple of weeks.
Okay. Yep.
So yeah, I presume we're gonna be releasing like a video, presenting it and showing some ride footage in October.
Nice. I'll be definitely looking forward to seeing those things. It's super exciting at that point, and I don't know how you guys are containing the excitement from being so close. Like, geez, that would be just. Yeah, I don't know how I'd be walking around at that point, just with so damn close but so damn far. So, yeah.
It's hard. It's hard because you're always bumping into new problems that you didn't know existed before.
Yep.
It's a continuous learning experience. So some things are easier than you expected. Some things set you back. So yeah, it's hard to sleep. I'm probably losing hair, but we'll get transplants or something. I
You're in the
guess.
right. You're in that 30. You said 31 or something, wasn't it? 32. You're in that right age
I
group to
think
start
overall,
losing it. It's just maybe a tiny bit early. So
right? Yeah. Well, modern medicine will help me in 20 years probably.
hopefully it catches up. Yeah.
Gonna get we're gonna get big hair follicles or something. I'm sure.
So when you do get to take this to the track, hopefully in say like 2-3 weeks, whatever it is, are you guys going to be like trying to hide what this is from people? Are you going to just be like, hey, take a
Yeah.
video of me riding past, it's fine? Like,
No.
what are we doing here? Because like I
No.
really like the idea that somebody gets a leak video at some point and spark some interest. But obviously you guys want to keep some of this production tech in house at some point. So
Yeah.
so how's this going to look for you guys? Is it a hidden project still?
Yeah. I mean, the first tries are gonna be secret. We're gonna be renting the track,
Yep.
and no public's gonna be there. Just to kind of control what stuff comes out, because with the first try, when you go on there, maybe something goes wrong. You never
Yeah, of
know, and
course.
then
Yeah.
you know how media works. Something comes out and the Flux Primo sucks, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But it's just like a little bug that you had to kind of put to check boxes in.
Yeah, and everything has that
So
sort of
yeah,
process, which is normal. It's just people don't like to
yeah,
hear about it straight away. So yeah, people don't
yeah.
understand that
So
this
the
is normal.
first yeah, so the first rides I'm gonna make myself to kind of get a baseline going
Yep.
through just the whole throttle response and the various curves.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have obviously more capable riders than I am to kind of take charge and work on improving the bike
Okay.
itself. And then when we get kind of a good base working, then we have public testing going forward. So basically, on our website, you can sign up for a test ride, and we're going to be choosing then. Not everybody is going to be able, of course, because there are thousands of people that signed up already.
Thousands. Have you
But
really got
we're
that
going to be
many?
yes, yeah, we got
That's awesome.
3,000 people now.
That's
Yeah,
fantastic. That's really good. I'm really impressed that that's happened for you guys. And just so people know, I've written this down. It's fluxmoto.co is the website to sign up for that. There's a very obvious link on there to click
exactly.
to sign up. So people head over to that website while you're
Yeah.
listening to this and add your name to that list.
Yeah, and there you can also like put a very early pre-order. It's no pressure. We guarantee the refundability if you change your mind down the line.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, what it brings is you're going to be the first in line when they come up, and you're going to block your price at 12,000, which is the current target price,
Yep.
and you're
Euros
going
we're
to have
talking here, aren't we?
sorry,
Euros or American dollars? What
yeah,
conversion here we talking?
euros,
Euros. Yep. Cool.
euros
Yep.
exactly.
Yep.
Um, and you're going to have a little special edition to kind of thank the early believers to prop up our numbers.
Ooh. You're getting me. I think I'm going to have to go
And
put my name on that one. How much is the like the deposit down? I'm getting excited.
it's
Honestly, the
50 euros.
50, is that it? Oh, I think I'm
Yeah,
definitely
yeah,
putting that
and
down.
as I and as I say, you know, of course, nobody knows me, and I could be just stealing your money, but
Let's
it's
hope not.
refundable. Yeah, but it's refundable anytime, so you can just kind of put it there and see what happens. And if it's in 1 year, you kind of say, "Well, I want my money back," you're gonna get your money back, and that's it.
So for those
It's
people that are putting
non-obligatory.
so people that do put that down, right? Like, what is your? Because obviously people want some sort of expectation on when they're going to actually see that deposit come to a reality. What's the time
Yeah,
frame for you guys? That are we talking 2023, 24? Do you even have a date in mind
yeah.
yet?
So the plan is in 23 to release the production motorcycle,
Mm-hmm.
so the successor of the Primo, and then of course the whole media testing stuff, basically where Stark is today,
Yep.
and then to start rolling out the bikes in 224 to
Okay.
customers.
Yep. That's in pre-order sort of terms. That's not that bad, really. Like that's only what we're 18 months away,
Yeah,
sort of
two
thing. Less
years.
than that. So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And again, it's $50. You're just putting it there. So to explain why is it there, what's even the point of putting those $50? It's because it helps us with our fundraising.
Mm-hmm.
Because investors these days, they want proof of traction as early as possible,
True. Yep.
and people putting actual money in there is the best proof of traction that you can have. So basically, that's helping us, helping you to get that bike out there finally.
So have you had many people do that $50 deposit part? Like you said, 3,000 have signed up for the test ride. What's the
Yeah,
numbers on the other bit?
we had a little over 200 people
Okay,
right now,
nice. Yep.
and yeah, I'm kind of happy with that, considering that we did precisely zero marketing up to today. We just released like those photos and a press release.
I was gonna say,
We
like, you
don't have
guys haven't
plans.
done much, and I didn't think I'd noticed anything about the actual, deposit side of things. I knew about the test ride,
Yeah,
but I didn't know that you'd got up to
yeah,
that deposit point. So and you've got that many people already. They're
yeah.
just obviously the diehards following you guys with anything electric. So
Yeah, yeah, because we also didn't want to be too pushy because it's, so early in the process
yep,
that I don't want to be the classic Kickstarter campaign where they are really aggressively kind of trying to get as much money
hmm,
from people as possible, and then kind of, you know, the company goes bust, and then you're out of luck,
yeah, definitely.
So
Well,
basically, it's just kind of there, if you want to do it, it's there. If you don't want to do it, it's cool. Whatever floats your boat.
yeah, definitely. But it obviously, like you said, it helps you guys keep this thing rolling, and it gives people something
Yeah,
to
it
look
helps
forward
us.
to.
Yeah, it helps us with the next steps, and it's basically democracy in that sense, because you're voting with your money that you want this kind of bike to come to market,
Yeah, definitely.
and investors hear that kind of democracy the most. And the whole game is to raise enough money to be able to really ramp up to production, because that whole part is gonna be very expensive.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's the big expense, isn't it, to get things started. So, but I dare say that
Yeah,
that number of 200 odd people that have put down the deposit, if in 2 3 weeks you guys put out a video of the bike rolling out somewhere, sneak peek sort of thing,
yeah.
that's going to trigger a lot more of those people coming to you guys, popping down 50 bucks euro. So yeah, you
I
might have
think
some
so. I
marketing done
think so.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I really want to keep it organic. I don't want to put out any ads or stuff like that. I just want real organic growth.
Well, yeah, that's the paid for click side of things doesn't really work in the practical sense. So yeah, I agree with what you're doing, because I do similar things with our own media stuff here. I don't pay for ads like that. I just try and let it be an organic growth, and people will share it based on the fact that they like it and they actually are interested in it. So yeah, you've got to do it that way, because
Exactly.
otherwise you're just getting false numbers.
That's precisely right. Yeah. And then when you actually build the bikes, let's say in a tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
and it comes time to pay the full asking price, maybe you get a cold shower, because only 10% of people are actually putting the whole money down, and we definitely don't want to come to that.
No, well, you don't want to build, 10,000 bikes and then all of a sudden you only actually get 3,000 people wanting them.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So where is there anything else that you want to get across at this point? Like we're about an hour and a half deep in talking electric bikes and where you're up to. What else is there that
Mm.
you feel you need to get out to the people about Flux at this point in time?
Well, gosh, if you put me on the spot like that, I can think.
Yeah, I
I
did
can
just drop
think of
that one
anything.
right there. We did run through a fair bit of stuff, but like we've covered sort of the battery, we've covered the power, um,
But I
where you're
think
up
I think
to.
maybe the digital aspect of it kind of
Yep,
excites me a lot,
yep.
because I think that's going to be the real driver of performance and usability going forward. So the first obvious hurdles are mechanical and physical,
Mm-hmm.
and then it becomes, I think, a game of software, basically, because you'll have all the power in the world. You're presumably going to have enough range, so then it becomes the question of putting the power down
Mm-hmm.
in the best way.
Yep.
And again, with electrics, that is all completely curves on a screen, right? And I'm also excited about all the extra stuff we're going to be able to do. Like, we're already with the Primo, we're putting up a lot of sensors in the control unit. So we get a lot of data that we might use going forward to kind of build stability programs that will help the rider, so maybe in a future day you can have the bike help you in the air to kind of level the bike out if you get out of control, which also is a really neat thing with electrics, is that you have one gear. So if you kind of go in a nosedive, you have a lot more margin to pick the nose up, because the rear wheel can spin up to top speed. And if we're talking the other way around, if you're nose up, theoretically the wheel can even spin backwards to kind of help you get that situation in control. It's all digital, and you basically just it becomes a game of software of how you're going to be handling that. And I think machine learning and big data processing is going to have a big part in increasing the performance and usability of the bikes in the midterm.
Yeah, that the digital side of it, but also just quickly while I remember this part of it, but that bit you mentioned about with the leveling out of the bike in the air. When if for the for the listeners that have heard me do the Stark episode for a couple of episodes back, that was one of the big things that I noticed straight away about the electric bike, was that when you took off a jump and you did go, nose up, nose down, the ability for you to adjust the bike just by the the blip of the throttle or the touch of the rear brake, it was way more sensitive to adjustments than what you're used to. Like, if you pull the throttle on to try and bring the back down on a combustion bike, it does it, but it doesn't do it heaps. Like it's not really like a a pivot point that would come back up level straight away. Whereas I felt like that was an automatic thing, like that you just touch the throttle on the Stark and the electric bike, and it would just level out perfectly, really easily. It was a much different sensation from that combustion bike feel for that particular moment.
Yeah, and one aspect is the wheel speed aspect that I mentioned. Another is the actual gyroscopic inertia that a gas bike has because of all that rotating mass, which kind of wants to stay in place. And then also you have with a lot of sensors and with the digital control that an electric bike has, then you can think of algorithms that sense the terrain, or you can have different characteristics of the bike on different parts of the track. Let's say one part of the track is sandy, you have a bigger throttle response. There's an off-camber hard corner, you have a very mellow throttle response. And all of that can be done at 100 times per second, basically. So it opens up really a whole new world of possibilities to play around with it.
With that side of things, you just made me think of like we keep going back and bringing up Teslas, but they're the ones that have set the standard for a lot of this stuff. But like, you think about the Teslas and how they have all these cameras pointing out, for like, if something runs out in front of the car, it'll apply the brakes and that sort of things, or it'll keep you in the lane because it's monitoring by the camera that there's a white line that you're crossing or whatever that marks the center lane. Do you see that do you see like these electric bikes, and particularly like yours, having a camera or something on the front or the back of it, looking at the terrain and then going, oh, look, I can see that that's a sand patch coming up. I'm going to adjust my throttle applicability in 0.5 of a second because it's going to need to be, more aggressive in that point. Do you see something like that? Like, are we talking this futuristic?
Honestly, I don't.
No?
Honestly, I don't for this kind of bike, because you can check out the horror stories of the Tesla Autopilot.
Oh yeah. There's weird stuff that happens there.
There are a lot of them. And we're talking about recognizing trucks and lines. Forget about recognizing terrain, and it's a car that costs 60,000 plus.
Yep.
So it's not a problem to put a lot of processing power on there, because if you're going to optically be looking for patterns, it requires a lot of processing power, and it's just not feasible for a motorcycle. at least not for an off-road motorcycle. But for for terrain sensing, the best shot I see is actually using sensors. So basically, the sensors through the vibrations and through the response of the rear wheel compared to the throttle input and to the sensors, that they basically assess what terrain you are using. That actually Rivian, if you know them, the electric truck company, already has already has such a system where they basically, through the sensors and through the grip, they assess what kind of terrain the truck is rolling on and adapt the truck to the best settings for that terrain. And that's, I think, the best option also for off-road bikes. And for those kind of things, you really need a lot of data and a lot of good data. Because pattern recognition is a game that is played first by labeling a shit ton of data. And that's why already on the first Primo that is going to roll out of that garage, we have all the sensors on there. And it's accurate sensors because, again, if you use like smartphone sensors and stuff like that, you're going to be, it's like measuring your piston with a ruler, you know. You're not going to be precise enough to get anything from it.
Yeah, fair enough.
So we have all of that embedded in the ECU directly, so it also communicates with the processor directly. And yeah, so exciting times ahead.
Yeah, definitely. We should point out too along the way, I think we sort of mentioned this, but we probably haven't covered it because we talked about it on the previous one. You guys are working out of a garage, aren't you? The four of you. It's not a big project at this point. You're out of a garage.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we are four dudes with a dream.
Exactly. And I love that part of that story. When we spoke about it before, I look up to that sort of thing. Like you guys have a vision in mind, and you are trying to take down some pretty big, companies in terms of that are existing in motorcycling, and yeah, you're doing it with something completely out of the world, and brand new. And yeah, look, much admiration from my side of things on this. So yeah, no, it's amazing.
I think it brings a different viewpoint to it. You know, you bring in a lot more passion than maybe somebody who has heaps of money into it, because it's really, really important to you personally to kind of get this thing going. And I don't think it's a huge limiting factor going down the line, because what's lacking in the world isn't really money. What's lacking is talented, motivated teams that can execute on tasks, you know. And then if there is a market, and if you're able to make solutions that the market needs, you're going to get funding.
Well, yeah, and I was just going to say, like, if you guys, with the four of you, with the passion for the project, prove that it's possible, yeah, your investment will come, won't it? So the fact that you're in a garage to start with doesn't mean really anything. I think it's just a case of if you guys can practically make this function, you'll be there in no time.
Yeah, and I think it also speaks volumes to ourselves, because we can't. It's not like a little hobby or a game that we play. It's I put my savings into this, and I really, really believe in it. Basically, it's not like a little hobby move or a power play to become an overnight millionaire. It's something that I care deeply about, and have this passion for 10-15 years already.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's a fantastic story and outlook, and I can't wait to see it come to life. I've got two things that I've thought of as we've been chatting through this bit that we haven't really. One thing that we haven't touched on specifically for you guys with the bike as such, but the other conversation that comes with the electric conversation is the weight of the bike. Have you guys got any projections on that? Like, obviously you haven't finished it, but have you got a projection on what you're aiming for the weight of the bike?
Yeah, I think the Primo is going to be around 115 kilograms.
Nice. So that's, yeah.
I don't know what that translates to pounds.
Yeah, I'm not good on that side of things either. I work in metric too. I've said a
But
few times on these
yeah, sorry,
things.
Australia's metric. Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
I'm used to speaking in pounds when I'm talking English.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, no,
Um,
it works perfectly for me. I know what 115 kilos is, but yeah. Uh,
yeah, so I think it's a fair weight for the first
you're
bike coming out of the garage, you know.
yeah, you're right in the ballpark. Yeah,
Uh,
that's a good spot. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and again, the whole transparency thing, we're gonna be when it's all said and done, when all the fluids are in it, when it's completely as is going to be driven on a racetrack, we're going to post a photo of the bike on a scale
Yeah, nice.
so everybody can see that's the weight and that's it. We're not going to kind of just say, you know, on the website, yeah, we're going to have 100 kilos, but trust us, you know,
I
it's going to
think
be a photo and
I think this is
that's
why
it.
you've sort of made me a bit more excited about it as we continue to speak about it. The way you've thought of some of these little things, like putting a video up of you rolling the bike onto a weight plate and seeing the number. You're just trying to
Mm-hmm.
trying to think of things that people would have wanted to see already, not just blind trust that the number on the page that you've read for the spec sheet is actually correct. You know, because not many people can actually
Mm-hmm.
weigh a motorcycle at their house. Like, it's not something you've got the usual the scales that you can do. Like, you've got a bathroom scale, but that don't usually work too well when you've got two pressure points. So, you know, like, it's not easy. So, but you're thinking of
Yeah,
these
but
things, and you're making me
also,
trust in it, and you're making me want to see it,
yeah.
and you know, it's a real life, you know, project that you're doing. You're trying to be open about it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, but also in general, I mean, when people have the bike at home, yeah, they can mostly weigh it. I guess it's a little bit impractical, but they can do it. But my point is that, especially in the EV space, you know, you have all these kind of startups coming out with claims of
Yeah,
ranges and weights and whatever. And a lot of it, I mean, I would dare to say that most of it is crap.
yeah, it's bullshit.
It's
Most of it.
marketing
Yeah,
hype.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, there you go. And I'm really trying to steer in the other direction and build up long-term trust, because I believe lies have speed, but the truth has endurance.
definitely. Yeah, definitely. Well, on that, the other thing that I thought of, and this is sort of then the negative viewpoint of electric, right? And I just want to get your opinion on something. So, and if he's listening to this, he'll know who I'm talking about. But a friend of mine, we've had a debate recently about electric, you know, technology and the battery technology, and he's carried on
Mm-hmm.
like mechanic, right? He's carried on that, you know, ever
Mm-hmm.
since he was an apprentice 30 odd years ago, it was electric was coming, you know, and he was going to be out of a job because there'd be nobody that needed, you know, pistons changed and all that sort of stuff. And he's carrying on that
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to happen in his lifetime. And I'm like, well, I see it from what I've done with this, you know, this Stark test, and then you see all these other announcements of all these startups, yourself included. I see it as being more of a 5 to 10 when we'll all be probably having one of these things in the garage. Where are you at
Mm-hmm.
with this technology? How is my number, you know, that I just said there, that 5 to 10 years and we all have something like this, practical for you, or is his negative viewpoint that it's never going to really take off and it's never going to get anywhere? Is that where you see this? You know, like I gather you're not, because obviously you're making something like this, so you're going to be on the front end of this rather than his end. But
Yeah,
what's your thoughts of that?
yeah.
Because there's lots of people out there that are like that, where they're thinking that this is never going to come to life and actually take over what we know as
Well,
motorcycling.
yeah, well, it's the same story over and over, isn't it? It's the same story from carriage to automobile. It's the same story from two-stroke to four-stroke,
Yep.
let's say in motocross. And the easy thing about the people that rent these things is that for most of the time they are right up until to the point where they become wrong.
Exactly. Yep.
You know,
Yep.
it's easy. It's easy. You can always say, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen because, yeah, it takes a lot of time to get there. But as as I said before, I think now we are literally standing on the edge of the cliff, and there is a big shift coming, and not because Greta Thunberg is screaming at us, but because there is a better, brighter horizon on the other side. I don't know, 5 years, I think it's premature.
Okay.
10 years, I would dare to say, at least for off-road, where it makes really immediate sense for an electric bike. I would think so, because it's going to get increasingly hard to ride gas bikes because of all the limitations.
Mm-hmm.
And I see a lot of new tracks coming up. They're going to be exclusively electric tracks, and they're going to be closer to cities, so you're not having to put your bike in a van and drive 100 miles away.
Yep.
Or kilometers, sorry.
Yep.
And it's just not going to make too much of a sense anymore to have a gas bike. I mean, there are going to be a lot of people having them because they like the noise, because they like the vibration, they like to shift gears, they like whatever, but it's gonna be like you have a bike from the 90s today. You know, it's not faster, you kind of ride it because you kind of like to ride a legend bike.
It's nostalgic at that point, isn't it?
Yeah, and I completely understand that. I mean, I've driven 500 two-strokes, and I liked it. And in a future garage imaginary where I have 100 bikes, 500 two-stroke would be one of them for sure.
Yep.
I'm not about taking bikes away. I'm about putting up a new solution that makes life better for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think I think that's the point there, is that you're not trying to take them away. You're just giving another option that will keep moving us forward in terms of you know, technology and enjoyment and ability to ride in different places.
Your mechanic friend, I would say to him, you are right for the time being, but you're going to be wrong very soon. But again, the bikes right now are not going to be how do you say, a cure-all. There still are going to be some limitations, like on very hot days or in cold weather, or even, as I mentioned, the range. I think it's going to be still a limiting factor for some people.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's going to completely take the market over by storm tomorrow.
Yeah.
But as I said, it's a starting point, and it's going to improve, I think, quite quickly in the years to come. And in 10 years, I fully see it being dominant on the market.
Yeah, right. Well, I might adjust the calendar reminder that I put in my phone for 5 years time. I might move it out to 10, and then that way I can roll into his garage on an electric bike at that point and be like, yeah, you know. So,
well, you're gonna be able to do that quite soon. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping it's sooner than that, but yeah, I'll put it there for 10 at worst as the reminder point to say, hey, do you remember this?
Yeah, I'm looking at like a whole complete outlook, because even if you look at cars, and cars are at least 5 years ahead of motorcycles.
Yep.
Still, most new cars being sold today are gas-powered cars, you know, or diesel-powered cars.
They are, but ever since pretty much ever since I went to this Stark test in May, since I've gotten back, I don't know whether it's just I'm alert to it now, but the amount of Teslas I'm seeing over here is ridiculous, and I'm like I live rurally, so I'm not exactly right next to a main city with charging stations and stuff, and they're traveling around out here, and I'm like, something's shifted, and that's what made me think that this thing was happening a lot sooner than it possibly might look like from previously. Like, I don't know whether it's just like I said, the fact that I've been exposed to it and I'm talking to people about it a lot more now, that I'm witnessing it, that bias that you get all of a sudden, or whether it's just a case that it is actually moving that way. But I know that it hasn't flipped to the other side where the predominant purchase, but I can see it coming.
Yeah, the momentum is strong. I mean, Tesla's doubling their sales year on year. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And I also think for us, we have a lot of years of expansion ahead of us, because we are basically taking more and more of the gas powered market. And that's why I also don't really see, yes, Stark, I guess, is a competitor, but I almost see them as a partner in making this change happen, because it's going to take more than one company to really shift the thing forward. There's going to be, you're going to need a lot of bikes out there for people to kind of start thinking of opening tracks in the cities and stuff like that. And I also believe we're going to have a lot of pushback from traditional companies in the racing side, where they're not really keen on letting us come there and maybe beat them, you know. So we're gonna need, I think, to work together and kind of make our own group and be stronger in numbers and kind of push this thing forward.
Yeah, well, I think like that's exactly the right point there. Like you're going to need numbers to show that it's working, but also like yeah, if Stark comes out and they're supposedly having some races in I believe it was in Britain in September that they're going to actually start racing against gas powered bikes. So I'm assuming that's still going ahead, but that's what they told us at the launch. You know, if they win and stuff or do really well, that's great, but if you guys then turn up, you know, 6-12 months later with a bike and do similar things, and then it shows that there's multiple brands that are now, you know, on par or better than the gas powered, that's when things will start to shift. But there will also be at that point too, if there's multiple brands, there'll be pushback to separate classes because the gas powered can't keep up. And yeah, you're going to need to have more than one brand to prove that it's viable and for you to essentially to stick together and, you know, almost unionize to say, hey, we need to do this, you know, make a push with together sort of thing. So
yeah, because again, in the grand scheme of things, we are still incredibly small fish compared to the huge established manufacturers, and also to the petrochemical forces that are behind bigger political decisions.
yeah, definitely.
So yeah, we work. I think I see us working together, and as you said, you know, one bike beats it, it's a fluke. Two bike beats them, it becomes
People start
trend.
to pay attention.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and where I really see a big proliferation is when people are actually going to have these bikes at home and other people can try them,
Yes.
and people can see that they are safe, that they are reliable, that it's not gonna burn down their house when they're charging overnight, and that's basically we can produce them reliably. Again, we return to Alta. You know, making prototypes is relatively easy. You know, anybody can do that, but there's a huge Grand Canyon then on the next step to actually build them in mass production
Yeah.
reliably and have them also in the market be reliable. And that's, I think it's really incredible that Alta was able to do that straight up, being a complete novice. So my hats off to them. And we also have some people from their engineering team kind of helping us and consulting us on our way. So I'm really happy to have that kind of talent rowing my boat.
Yeah, that's fantastic that you've got some, you know, existing knowledge there from those guys, because that would, you know, like you said, you're running into little problems all the time that you've got to solve to make it continue to work. And hopefully they've, you know, kicked you past a few of those, you know, in the early days as well too. So yeah, it's a massive project you've got going for yourself.
Yeah, mostly I'm leaning on them for the second stage, which is mass production, because they really had some really. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
we lost each
I
other
think we just
for a
had a
moment.
drop out there. We'll keep going. I'll cut that section
Yeah.
out. But yeah, so you're saying you're leaning on Alta for some, I gather, the production side of issues that they run into.
Yeah, the production side, yeah, because that in my view, that is a far bigger challenge than the prototype itself. And also, I guess the technology has moved forward from Alta times for the prototype, so it's not terribly relevant in that sense. But their solutions for mass production, quality control, and also the safety of the battery pack, which is a very, very important aspect that is not as easy as it might sound. They had some really, really good solutions there. And of course, if I can stand on the shoulders of giants, I try to do that as much as possible.
Why not use the knowledge that's already been found? Yeah, exactly. So, no, definitely.